Hey guys, this is Zlewikk and welcome back to Tinto Talks. So dev diaries for not yet announced game called Project Ceasar. Today, we all know that's EU5. After last week's very interesting dev diary about combat, today is time to talk about something very important and related to combat, so logistics and sieges. First of all, there is one important change on how the generals will work in EU5. You remember that they generally give different stats, they're from the same pool of the characters as advisors, etc. But more importantly, right now, when you assign a general, you cannot change the general assigned to that specific army for the next 12 months, which is just to make it a bit more real and avoid an exploit that you could just do in EU4 by transferring the general around the world within just the same day, right? You could have a general in London and the same day move him to China without any issues in EU4, which for a gameplay purpose is cool, but not really realistic. And in EU5, of course, it still won't be fully realistic with that 12 months pass, but still I think it's, for the gameplay purposes, it's still gonna be good. How about reinforcing your troops? Remember the two main types of the troops that your country will be owning are levies that are coming from estates, as well as regular regiments. You might also remember that regular regiments are having their own manpower pool, and they also using specific goods to maintain and reinforce. So for reinforcements, levies will not be reinforcing at all. So in early game, when most of your troops are levies, it's gonna limit the wars a lot, while the standing army is gonna reinforce indeed, but only when it's standing on your own territory or on a territory of an ally in a war that is not occupied. So you'll not be able to reinforce while sieging your enemies. On top of that, the army cannot reinforce when it is retreating. It is in combat, which is a bit different compared to EU4. You could reinforce when retreating there. It is loaded on a ship or currently taking attrition losses. So if you're taking attrition, you cannot reinforce. That's something also different compared to EU4. And you see, access to goods by default does not, if you have full access, it has just no impact to how fast you are reinforcing. But if you're missing some goods, it's gonna slow down that process. I like these two sentences and I'm gonna read out loud. When people talk about logistics, this usually linked to the movement of armies, and movement of armies in Project Ceasar has some changes in it compared to what you have used to. One thing that is taking inspiration for the Hearts of Iron series is the fact that when an army is moving, they'll be slowly losing morale. This creates the natural flow of armies marching and then resting, and not just marching across Europe and immediately joining a battle, like the march has no impact at all. That's another change that's gonna impact the gameplay a lot, while making the game just more realistic. And again, this ever coming question that people keep asking in the comment section: what's the balance between reality, the game being realistic, and having fun from the gameplay? And my answer for that is, I don't know. I have to see that game in action. Let me know what you think, guys, in comments. We also added the fact that an army that is beyond certain size will be marching slower, where the size is based on its total frontage it is fielding. While you can attach units to other units, this makes the attached units move slower, as military organization in the late medieval era was rather limited. In later ages, you get advances that reduce this penalty significantly, completely limiting it in the Age of Revolutions. And speaking particularly about that age, we have an advance that makes multiple corps combat more interesting, making them to march to the sound of the guns. This advance allows the army to automatically react if another army of ours is in a adjacent location, enters combat, and then quickly march to join that battle. Are we talking about... I just wanted to joke. Victoria 3 automatic battles. That is just a slight automation that might be of help, but it's only for the bordering locations, so it's not like automatic combat. It's just a bit of a help in case when you'll be fighting a lot of battles at once. But the question is whether this automation It's only late game, but will this automation cause overstacks? Meaning that is AI gonna reinforce everything at once that is bordering, or is gonna reinforce slowly to keep the reserves morale high? We'll see. We can take a look at a couple of advances that are shown with us here, and the interesting one is for sure Napoleonic Warfare, which is allowing you to ignore zone of control, so be able to march through the forts. Advances that unlock specific ships or specific buildings. How about food and armies? In EU4, it was just, supply limit in a province and attrition you are taking. Pretty lame and completely ahistorical. In case of EU5, each army has food it needs to consume every month. I think like Imperator Rome, else they will start deserting and dying. If you run out of food during a siege, you are basically forced to abandon the siege very quickly as your army evaporates. A standard infantry regiment can usually carry a few months of rations with them, but when they are gone, they are gone. Here the new category of units comes into place. The major type of the auxiliary category in the logistic units, which can carry far more food than any other type of unit. So like in Imperator Rome we had donkeys that took care of it. Here we have the camp followers that allow to gather and move troops around your army. From what I remember, in Imperator Rome, each province also had some food supply that the units could use. The question is it gonna work the same in EU5? Oh yeah, there it is. So how do you get the food to your army then? Well, if they are stationed in your own locations, they will take food from the local provincial supplies. So you sometimes have to be careful about where you station your armies so as to not cause the population to starve. So you cannot just overstack your whole army in one location, as it might be problematic there. If you want to get the food from your allies or countries you have the military access with, you need to negotiate a treaty that allows you to take their food supplies. This is not always something every country will accept. Your subjects have no say in this though, as most types of subjects give the access automatically. There it is. When you're at war, you can steal food from the occupied provinces, like Imperator Rome, so it's very similar to there. If you control the capital of a province, you can steal the food of the local populace there to feed your armies. If your army is at a hostile location where you cannot get local food, you can try to trace access up to 2 locations away through controlled locations to get the food. If you can't reach your own locations at that distance, there are 2 ways to get food to your armies. First of all, something that it was in EU4 but not much used, a supply depot. So a special, I don't know how to call it, so special thing created by your army that is stationing food and your army can draw food from it. Supply depot can be created by an army and you can deposit food until its maximum storage capabilities. And any army within range can withdraw from it. Any army can gather food from their homeland and deposit it to the depot if there is space. There are advances increasing the capacity for depots as well. And that is huge. Making navies actually useful, because you can also have capacity for the navies to provide logistic support as well. There are 2 unit abilities that can be done for them: gathering food and distributing food. This is a game changer for the navy. And this is also interesting because they understand that for a lot of you this is genius. Yes, I can micromanage the supply, make it more historical, but for some of you, fuck it! I just want to move troops around the map and win the wars and color the map. Then for this group of the people, you see why we do understand that not every player may enjoy caring about logistics. For those, you can assign logistics objectives to supporting armies and navies, and then they will solve it for your main armies. You can also steal fruit from your enemy in a battle when they are defeated, as defeated army cannot protect their entire baggage train as they try to escape. Let's move to sieges, and I think it was mentioned a bit in the previous, long time ago already, that sieges and zone of control is more or less expected to work like Imperator Rome, which is, I think, one of the best systems Paradox has, because you have a province inside which you have a lot of small locations. It does not make sense to siege all of them manually, and that's why the small locations will just take a few weeks to occupy, while the forts will be forts like in EU4, which will take some time to get the siege done. Maybe it will be mentioned later, but on top of it, in Imperator Rome, The forts also had zone of control, which would be automatically occupied once you occupy the fort itself. I guess we'll see. I need to read it. Food has a significant impact on how you plan your military campaigns, as it affects how long you can sustain a siege. Yeah, the key thing here, and this is something I'm a big fan of, is that sieges are gambles. You don't know when a fort will fall, and now with the fact that if you run out of food, you will run the risk of actually losing and failing a siege. About every 30 days there's a chance for something to happen in the siege, with chances of it getting worse for defenders or another month of holding out. It sounds similar to EU4 honestly, with just this description, except the food will be a much more impactful part of it. So there is an example siege, and you see that depending on the dice roll, and it's actually something different to EU4, like in EU4, yeah, you had dice rolls of the siege between 0 and 14, and more experienced players know more or less what will happen depending on the dice roll. Like for example with 14 you would breach walls, and you can see with each dice roll what will happen. This is outbreak with 1, surrender with 20, so there will be up to 20 dice rolls here, food shortage, etc. And you're also seeing a chance for each dice roll to happen. So for example, early on of the siege, there's no chance to get between 14 and 20 dice roll, it seems, so you cannot just surrender in the first phase. But you have 7% chance of getting 12 dice roll, which is a food shortage. With these changes, the assault is now a more potentially viable option, as either you win and save time and food, or you fail the assault and have taken casualties, thus preserving your food supply longer. While besieging a coastal location is not only important to blockade it, making the siege faster, it can also at the same time supply your army with food. So again, navy will be much more important than EU4. Okay, here it is. If you take a fort, all locations in its zone of control will start changing control to you, which is expected. You have so many locations, it does make no sense to siege every location separately, and that's what they are saying here. So same as in Imperator Rome. Secondly, if you take the capital, you will start getting control over all locations in that province. Of course, this is blocked by hostile armies and forts. Okay, so if you take a capital of a whole province, the location is capital of a whole province, you occupy the whole province, except provinces controlled by the forts. That's why the forts will be also a very important part of the gameplay there. Otherwise, you can be carpet sieged immediately. As mentioned in the previous post of the forum, we have the zone of control system in Project Ceasar as well, but the one with far less complicated rules than was used in Imperator Rome. As you might have noticed earlier, there's an advance in the Age of Revolution that allows you to ignore it. While that may be useful to chase down enemy armies, you often want to take forts and cities away to get your logistics sorted out. Yes, so sometimes in that age you will want to follow armies to wipe them, win them, drag them down, etc. But that will cost you logistics. Finally, the recruitment options. One thing that has not been mentioned yet about the military is that we have different recruitment methods for regiments, where you can either rush the training so a regiment can be ready much quicker, but at far less strength, or spend more time in training and start with higher experience. That's like just Hoi4 stuff, right? We could do there as well. So yeah guys, I think this is all for this dev diary. I think the reactions are pretty good. Again, I'm a bit afraid that going for historical accuracy will cost a bit of fun in the gameplay, but some of the approaches that Johan presented, they are reassuring me that it should be good. And again, I cannot tell you until I play it. When can we play it, Johan? Or at least see some of the gameplay. Okay guys, thank you so much for today. Remember to leave a like, to support the content, of course subscribe to the channel to get notified about next Tinto Talks. Bye bye!